Good morning students. In continuation of the proton NMR spectroscopy, this is lecture 8. We are in the study of applications of proton NMR spectroscopy. Few applications were covered in the yesterday's class. The remaining applications are to study conformations, to study the conformations of molecules. Now the two examples were included in the syllabus. One is cyclohexane, the other one is decalene. Now first one, cyclohexane. Cyclohexane. Now cyclohexane exhibited many conformations. Among all the conformations, the chair conformation is more stable than the other conformations. However, the chair conformation is stable, but still the chair conformation is rapidly exchanged from one chair conformation to the other chain conformation. That is, say this is one chair conformations where HA is the axial hydrogen, HE is the equatorial hydrogen. It is exchanged between the second chair conformation. This is second chair conformation. So cyclohexane is exchanged, however stable, but still it exchanged from one chair conformation to the other chair conformation. So its conformations can be studied with the help of NMR technique, that is proton NMR spectroscopy. The chair conformation, when recorded at room temperature, the cyclohexane appeared with only one signal for all the 12 hydrogens, only one signal for all the 12 hydrogens, like this. 12 hydrogen. This is when recorded at room temperature. The molecule when recorded at room temperature means at higher temperature, there is only one signal appeared for all the 12 hydrogens. 12 hydrogens. Now this is at 2.41 ppm. 2.41 ppm we may observe one signal. The same molecule when recorded at lower temperature, say minus 64 degrees centigrade, it appeared, the same molecule is appeared with the two signal, one corresponding to 6 axial hydrogen, the other corresponds to 6 equatorial hydrogens. Now there are two signals appear, one for HA hydrogen, the other for HE hydrogen corresponding to 6 hydrogen intensity. This is at lower temperature. You can see the molecule is same, but depends upon the temperature, it exhibited the proton NMR spectrum. At room temperature, we may see only one signal for all the 12 hydrogen. At lower temperature, it appear with the two signal, one for axial hydrogen related to 6 hydrogens, the other for equatorial hydrogen corresponding to 6 hydrogens. One at 2.40, the other at 2.44 ppm. There are two signals appear. Let us find out why it behave a dual nature. Say at room temperature, now when the cyclohexane is transforming or exchanging from one chair conformation to the other chair conformation, you can observe where axial hydrogen of the first chair becoming equatorial in the second chair, whereas equatorial hydrogen of first chair becoming axial hydrogen in the next or second chair. That is, During the transformation of cyclohexane from one chair conformation to the other chair conformation, the axial protons becoming equatorial and equatorial becoming axial. At higher temperature, this transformation or exchange is so fast. When the exchange is so fast, we cannot predict which hydrogen is exactly equatorial, which hydrogen is exactly axial. Are you following? At higher temperature, when the transformation of one chair to the other chair is so fast, not possible to predict or distinguish axial and equatorial hydrogen. That means at higher temperature, when the transformation is faster, axial and equatorial protons becoming equivalent. When axial equatorial becoming equivalent, therefore appear with one signal. Is it clear? Now coming to lower temperature. At lower temperature, the transformations from one chair conformation to the other chair conformation is restricted. When the transformations are restricted, axial hydrogen is always axial, equatorial hydrogen remain equatorial. So we can distinguish axial from equatorial. Therefore, HA, HE hydrogens become non-equivalent. So that the separate two signals appear, one for axial, other for equatorial. Are you following? So the equivalency between axial and equatorial hydrogens become possible when there is a transformation. When there is a transformation, one signal at room temperature supported the transformation of cyclohexane ring from one chair conformation to the other chain conformation, leading to equivalency between axial and equatorial protons. So this is about cyclohexane conformation. Coming to the decalin. Conformations of decalin. Decalin. Now it is a bicyclic system where the decalin is formed by the fusion of one cyclohexane ring with the other cyclohexane ring by means of two bonds. By means of two bonds. If one cyclohexane ring fused with the other cyclohexane ring through the two bonds belongs to axial or through the two bonds belongs to equatorial, then conformation is called as trans. Then conformation is called as trans. That is, one cyclohexane is fused with the second cyclohexane through two axial bonds or two equatorial bonds or equatorial bonds. The conformation belongs to trans. If a one cyclohexane ring fused with the other cyclohexane ring through one equatorial bond, one axial bond, the conformation is called as cis. Cis conformation, where one bond is axial, other bond is equatorial, utilized to fuse with the second ring. That is the cis conformation. Now, in the coming to the trans conformation, we can represent it as HA, HE hydrogen. You can say the first ring, say this is first ring. The first ring fused with the second ring by, this is equatorial bond, this is also equatorial, two equatorial bonds, therefore it is trans. Therefore it is trans. Now, the trans decalin has a rigid framework. Trans decalin has a rigid frame, therefore there is no exchange between one conformation to the other conformation. As it is a rigid one, the conformation itself is rigid, there is no exchange between one conformation to the other conformation. Therefore, at any temperature, always the axial proton is axial, remain axial, equatorial proton is remain equatorial. Therefore, when we record at any temperature, it always produced, transdecalin always appeared with the two signals. There are two signals for transdecalin at, say, at room temperature. So whatever the temperature, always there is a two signals. One signal for axial hydrogen, other signal for equatorial hydrogen. This is about transdecalin. Coming to cisdecalin. Now, a cisdecalin has a flexible, whereas trans is a rigid. Here the cisdecalin has a flexible nature. Therefore, one set of chair being transformed into another set of chair with respect to this, with respect to the ring, one ring. So here, because of its flexibility, there is one set of chair being transformed into another set of chair, like cyclohexane. We can represent it as, say, this is one ring, say this is axial bond, this is equatorial bond, this is axial and equatorial bond. Axial hydrogen, equatorial hydrogen. You can observe the first ring is fused with the second ring by means of one axial bond, one equatorial bond. Therefore, it is cisdecalin. It is cisdecalin. It is transformed from one set into the other set, like this. Now here the first bond is axial, the second bond is equatorial. Here the first bond is equatorial, the second bond is axial. There is a difference. First bond is axial, second bond is equatorial, involved in the fusion with the other ring. Now in this conformation, the first bond is equatorial, second bond is axial. Then we can get this conformation. This is He hydrogen, Ha hydrogen. So both are cis conformations, both are cis, but due to the flexibility there is an exchange. So at room temperature or higher temperature, this exchange is faster. Therefore, Ha proton become equivalent to He proton. Are you following? So because of its flexibility, it can be rapidly exchanged from one set of chair to the another set of chair, similar to cyclohexane. When recorded at higher temperature, the transformations are so fast. Therefore, Ha proton become equivalent to He proton. He become equivalent and appear with only one signal for all protons. One signal for all protons. There is no exactly axial, there is no exactly equatorial. So all protons becoming equivalent and hence appear with one signal. Now recording at room temperature for the molecule, if we get two signals, indicated it is a trans. At the same temperature, if we get only one signal, indicated it is a cis. So based on the signal, number of signals, or based on the NMR spectrum at a particular temperature, we can predict the cisdecalin from the transdecalin. Two signals transdecalin, one signal cisdecalin, recording at room temperature. So this is about the conformational study for both cyclohexane and decalin. Now coming to the second applications. The second applications, study of hydrogen bonding. Study of hydrogen bonding. Now, the electrostatic attraction between the electropositive atom to that of electronegative atom is called as hydrogen bonding. An electrostatic attractions between negative atom and electropositive atom is a hydrogen bonding, where always the electron movement is from electropositive atom, say hydrogen, to the electronegative atom. That means the hydrogen bonding decrease the electron density around the proton which involved in the hydrogen bonding. Are you following? So the electron movement is from electropositive atom to electronegative atom. Say electropositive atom is a hydrogen. That means the hydrogen bonding involved transfer of electron density from hydrogen to the other. Therefore, the hydrogen bonding decrease the electron density around the proton which involved in the hydrogen bonding. Hence, the proton involved in the hydrogen bonding, its signal always appear at downfield value. When electron density is decreased, its signal appeared at downfield value. A proton of hydrogen bonding always appeared at downfield value. Is it clear? Further, how much downfield? Always downfield. Whatever the proton involved in the hydrogen bonding, the signal value is shifted towards downfield. Now, what extent of downfield is shifted? That is, the extent of downfield shift for a proton involved in the hydrogen bonding depends upon strength of hydrogen bonding. The extent of downfield shift for those proton of hydrogen bonding depends upon the strength of hydrogen bonding. If hydrogen bonding is more stronger, the downfield shift is more. If hydrogen bonding is weaker, the downfield shift is less. Downfield, but it is less. So a proton involved in the hydrogen bonding, where the strength is more, its downfield is more. If the strength of hydrogen bonding is weak, its downfield is less. We have two types of hydrogen bonding: intramolecular hydrogen bonding, intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Intra and intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Example, say double bond O, this is enol, an intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Now intermolecular, say CH3 CH2 OH, hydrogen oxygen CH2 CH3, inter. Is it clear? Now intramolecular hydrogen bonding, intermolecular hydrogen bonding. The strength of intramolecular hydrogen bonding is more, or intramolecular hydrogen bonding is stronger when compared with the inter. Strong hydrogen bonding, weak hydrogen bonding. So the first one is stronger, the second one is weaker. Therefore, the hydrogen involving in intramolecular hydrogen bonding, its downfield is more when compared with the hydrogen involved in the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. In this case, say its value is nearly 15.0 ppm, whereas in the case of this, the value is 5.6 ppm. You can see in both the cases the hydrogen involving in the hydrogen bonding, but in the first instance where the hydrogen of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, The signal is appeared at 15.0 ppm. This is enolic hydrogen. Whereas in the case of ethyl alcohol, however, it is also involved in the hydrogen bonding. The value is appeared at 5.6 ppm. What happens? In the first example, it is an intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Therefore, it is stronger and hence the downfield shift for the proton is more. Whereas in the case of intermolecular hydrogen bonding, it is weaker. Therefore, downfield, but it is less downfield. Is it clear? Further, the intramolecular hydrogen bonding is independent on concentration as well as on temperature. Intramolecular hydrogen bonding is independent or not depends upon the concentration as well as the temperature. That means at any concentration, at any temperature, the hydrogen involved in the intramolecular hydrogen bonding appear at downfield with a constant delta value. Delta value is constant. Constant delta value, because under any concentration, either lower concentration or higher concentration, the strength of intramolecular hydrogen bonding remain unchanged. Similarly, at lower temperature or higher temperature, again the strength of intramolecular hydrogen bonding remain unchanged as it involved within the molecule. Therefore, it is independent. Hence, the downfield shift of a proton of intramolecular hydrogen bonding is more and always at constant delta value. Now coming to intermolecular hydrogen bonding. The strength of intermolecular hydrogen bonding depends upon concentration of the sample as well as the temperature. Concentration as well as the temperature. That is, under higher concentration, we are talking about intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So, its strength depends upon concentration and temperature. Let us find out how it depends. At higher concentration, where the molecules are very close to each other, therefore, however intermolecular, but it is stronger. Therefore, however it is intermolecular, because of close packing under high concentration, whatever the strength existed is a stronger. The intermolecular hydrogen bonding is stronger at higher concentration. Similarly, at lower temperature, again under lower temperature, the molecules are again very close. Therefore, it is stronger. That means under high concentration and low temperature, the intermolecular hydrogen bonding is also stronger. Therefore, the proton involved in the intermolecular hydrogen bonding appeared at a downfield value, but it is more. Coming to lower concentration, the molecule under lower concentration. When the concentration is lower, what happens? The molecules are moving far away from each other. When the molecules are moving far away from each other, the intermolecular hydrogen bonding become weak. It is already weak. When the molecules are moving far away from each other, it further weaken. So, the strength of intermolecular hydrogen bonding under lower concentration is weak. Similarly, under higher temperature, when the temperature is raised, the molecules moving far away from each other because of their gaseous nature. At higher temperature may be converted into gaseous form, where the molecules are moving or tumbling far away from each other, so that the strength of hydrogen bonding become weak. So, that is, under higher concentration and lower temperature, the downfield shift of hydrogen of intermolecular hydrogen bonding is more, whereas under lower concentration, higher temperature, the downfield shift of intermolecular hydrogen bonding is less because the strength of hydrogen bonding is weak. Now you compare both. At any temperature, the proton of intramolecular hydrogen bonding appear at constant delta value, whereas the proton involved in the intermolecular hydrogen bonding has its absorption frequency depending upon the concentration and temperature. There may be change. So based on the shifting of the proton towards the downfield value at temperature and concentration, we can predict the intramolecular hydrogen bonding from intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So this is about the study of the study of hydrogen bonding. Let us coming to the next applications, study of carbon nitrogen rotation. The study of carbon and nitrogen rotation, that is CN rotation. Example, you can take CH3, nitrogen, carbon here, double bond O, hydrogen, this is DMF, dimethyl formamide. Now, the two methyl groups on nitrogen, at room temperature, the two methyl groups on nitrogen, you can see in the structure where this methyl group is cis to oxygen, the other methyl group is trans to oxygen. Now these two methyl groups under this structure are non-equivalent, as one is cis to oxygen, the other one is trans to oxygen. But at room temperature, the two methyl attached with the nitrogen appeared with one signal. Now this signal is aldehyde proton, this proton, and this signal belongs to two CH3 groups. What happens? At higher temperature, there is a free rotation of carbon nitrogen. At higher temperature, there is a free rotation of carbon nitrogen, or with respect to carbon, nitrogen get freely rotated through a single bond along with its two methyl groups attached. So when there is a free rotation, at what time this CH3 is cis to oxygen, at the same time this CH3 is also cis to oxygen because of rotation. When there is a free rotation of nitrogen along with its two methyl group with respect to formyl carbon, at what time one methyl group is cis to oxygen, at the same time the other methyl group is also cis to oxygen. What happens? Because of free rotation, the two methyl groups become equivalent. Therefore one signal appeared at room temperature. Is it clear? Now under lower temperature, there is a partial double bond nature between carbon and nitrogen due to overlapping of nitrogen non-bonding pair of electron with p orbital of oxygen. CH3, nitrogen here, double bond, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, this is plus charge, this is minus charge. Now what happens? Now you can see non-bonding electrons of nitrogen get overlapped with oxygen p orbital. That resulted, there is a partial double bond nature between carbon and nitrogen. Now at lower temperature, because of partial double bond nature between carbon nitrogen, the rotation of carbon nitrogen get restricted. There is no rotation. Rotation of carbon nitrogen along with the 2 methyl groups on nitrogen is restricted. When the rotation is restricted, one methyl group always cis to oxygen, the other methyl group always trans to oxygen, and hence become non-equivalent. So under restricted rotation, the 2 methyl groups become non-equivalent. Therefore, the 2 separate signals appear for each methyl group. That is, one formyl signal, one methyl group and other methyl group. This is one CH3, this is second CH3, this is aldehyde group proton. So there are 2 separate signals appear for each methyl group. Are you following? Why? Now the two signal for a methyl group indicated there is a non-equivalency between 2 methyl groups, that due to restricted rotation. Under restricted rotation, one methyl always cis to oxygen, other methyl always trans to oxygen, therefore non-equivalent. Now under higher temperature, there is no partial, the partial double bond nature get disappeared. There is a single bond between carbon nitrogen that allow to rotate with respect to formyl carbon, and nitrogen get rotated along with its 2 methyl groups. When there is a free rotation, the 2 methyls become equivalent. Therefore, one signal appeared. So, one signal at higher temperature is possible when the 2 methyl groups become equivalent. The equivalency is possible when there is a free rotation. So, in this way, the free rotation, the carbon nitrogen rotations can be studied. So, this is about rotation of carbon and nitrogen. Now coming to the other applications. The other application, proton exchange process. Proton exchange. Proton exchange process. This process is also called as deuterium exchange. Deuterium exchange. Deuterium exchange process. Now, this technique, proton exchange technique, is used for the determination of the presence or absence of labile protons. Labile protons. Labile protons, that is the protons which can easily exchanged or easily replaced by the other atoms. Whatever the protons which can be easily exchanged or replaced by the other atom, such protons are called as labile protons. Includes the OH proton, that is in the alcohol, the NH2 proton, that is in the amine, the SH proton, that is in the thiols, the carboxylic acid proton, that is in the carboxylic acids. Now, these are the protons: OH proton, NH2 proton, SH proton, carboxylic acid proton. Those proton can be easily exchanged with the other, like this. Say, when we put A, it become OA, the hydrogen get lost, the hydrogen is exchanged with A under without reagents. Similarly, NH2, you put A, you will get Na2, where hydrogen get exchanged. So whatever the proton that can be exchanged easily are called as labile protons. So proton exchange process or deuterium exchange process can be utilized for the determination of the presence or absence of labile protons in a sample molecule. Now for that the sample is treated with deuterated water D2O. If a sample contain any labile proton, those protons get exchanged with the deuterium when it is treated with D2O, deuterated water. Therefore, the signal corresponding to labile proton of the sample get disappeared in the spectrum. The technique involved the treatment of sample molecule with deuterated water. If a sample contain any labile proton, can be exchanged with deuterium from the deuterated water, so that the proton which is labile of the sample, its signal get disappeared in the spectrum because of its exchange. So, the disappearance of signal indicated the presence of labile proton. Example, you take CH3, CH2OH, an alcohol. Now, where this is A proton, this is B proton, this is C proton. When it is recorded, we have 3 signals, A, B and C, 3 signals. When treated with, now this is one for CH3, one for CH2, one for OH, CH3 proton, CH2 proton, OH proton. When treated with deuterated water, say D2O, what happens? There is an exchange, CH3, CH2, it become OD, where hydrogen get exchanged from the sample. Therefore, this hydrogen get exchanged with the deuterium, so that we can get CH3, CH2, OD, where this is A proton, this is B proton. Now, when we record, we will get 2 signal, one for A proton, one for B proton. This is CH3, this is CH2. Now, what is the difference between these two? The sample is same. The signal, that is C signal, get disappeared, which is corresponding to OH, get disappeared in the spectrum because of its exchange. So, that indicate the presence of, the disappearance of signal indicated the presence of a labile proton. How many? With respect to its intensity. Here the intensity related to 1 hydrogen. So, a signal corresponding to 1 hydrogen intensity get disappeared in the spectrum indicated the presence of labile hydrogen, that to 1 labile hydrogen, 1 labile hydrogen, 1 labile proton. So, that all depends upon the intensity of the signal which is disappeared in the spectrum after the treatment with deuterated water. So, this is about alcohol. You take any alcohol, you will get the same mechanism, you will get the same signal. Presence of signal before treatment with deuterated water and disappearance of signal of labile proton after treatment with the deuterated water. Now, according to your syllabus, then you take amine, CH3, CH2, NH2, ethyl amine. There are 3 sets of proton, A proton, B proton and C proton. When we record, we have 1 signal for amine, 2nd signal for CH2, 3rd signal for CH3, A, B, C. This is CH3, this is CH2, this is NH2. Now, its intensity related to 2 hydrogen. Now, when treated, are you following? There are 3 signals before treatment with deuterated water. One belongs to CH3A, the other belongs to CH2B, the other corresponding to NH2 amine protons, that is C. This signal intensity is related to 2 hydrogen intensity. After treatment with deuterated water D2O, you can see CH3 here, CH2N deuterium. Both hydrogens and nitrogen amine protons get exchanged with the two deuteriums. You can see this is A proton, this is B proton. C protons are disappeared because of their exchange. So we can get a spectrum for A proton signal, for B proton signal. This is CH3, this is CH2. A CH3 for A set of proton, CH2 for B set of proton. There are only two signals. One signal get disappeared. The C signal get disappeared. Indicated the presence of labile proton. How many? The signal related to 2 hydrogen intensity get disappeared here after the treatment with deuterium. Therefore, 2 labile hydrogens. Two labile protons may be present. So in this way we can predict the presence or absence of labile hydrogens. Let us take another example, say carboxylic acid. So in your syllabus you have to study a proton exchange process for alcohols, amines and as well as carboxylic acids. Coming to the carboxylic acids, you take propionic acid, CH3, CH2, C double bond O, OH, a propionic acid, where you can find 3 sets of proton A, B and C. When we record, we have 1 signal, 2 signal, 3 signal. This is A, that is for CH3, this is B, that is for CH2, this is C, that is for carboxylic acid proton, COOH proton, with 1 hydrogen intensity, 1 hydrogen intensity. Now when we exchange with deuterium, you will get CH3, CH2, C double bond O, OD. Instead of hydrogen, you find the deuterium on deuterated carboxylic acid. Now there are A proton, B proton. The C protons are disappeared or exchanged with deuterium, so that you will get the spectrum for CH2 proton, CH3 proton, A for CH3, B for CH2. So in between the two spectrums, the third signal, C proton signal, is disappeared in the next when we treated the sample with adulterated water. Now one signal is disappeared, therefore the presence of labile proton. Is it clear? Now how many labile protons? The signal related to 1 hydrogen intensity get disappeared from the spectrum, therefore 1 labile proton is present. One labile proton is present. Is it clear? Now suppose if the labile hydrogens are absent, example, you take N-propyl chloride, CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl, proton A, proton B, proton C, N-propyl chloride, which has a 3 sets of proton, A proton, B proton and C proton. You will get its spectrum as CH2, CH2 and CH3, A, B and C. This is for CH3, this is for CH2, this is again for terminal CH2 protons. Now when we treat deuterated water, D2O, you will get again the same. Why? Because there is no labile proton in the sample molecule N-propyl chloride, therefore there may not be exchange. The proton is not exchanged with the some other or deuterium. you will get, after its recording, you will get A proton, B proton, C proton for CH3, CH2, CH2. This is the spectrum of the N-propyl chloride before treatment with deuterated water, and the spectrum of N-propyl chloride after treatment with deuterated water. Is there any difference? No. Before treatment we have a 3 signals, one for CH3, one for middle CH2, one for terminal CH2. After treatment with deuterated water, again we have a 3 signals, again one for CH3, one for middle CH2, one for terminal CH2. Indicated what? There makes no difference before treatment with deuterated water, after treatment with deuterated water. Indicated the signals are not disappeared, the same number of signals we can found after its treatment with deuterated water. Indicated the absence of labile proton, absence of labile proton. If this is also has a labile proton, there must be disappearance of some signals in the spectrum that is related to labile protons. So in this way we can determine the labile protons, their presence in the sample molecule with the help of deuterium exchange technique or proton exchange technique. So this is about proton exchange technique. Now now the last application, you have to study keto-enol tautomerism. Keto-enol tautomerism. With the help of NMR spectroscopy, we can study the keto-enol tautomerism. Now, the shifting of a proton from one atom to the other atom within the same molecule. Say, the shifting of a proton from one atom to the other atom within the same molecule resulted an enol form. In a keto form, the hydrogens are shifted to say oxygen, resulted a enolic form. Example, you take C double bond O, C double bond O, C double bond O, this is CH3, this is CH3. There are 2 hydrogen, this is acetyl acetone. Now it is in keto form, it is under keto form. Now a rapid exchange of one proton from carbon to oxygen, you will get CH3, hydrogen here, double bond, oxygen, OH, CH3. Now what happens? A rapid shifting of a hydrogen on carbon atom, that is enolic proton, to the oxygen resulted the enolic form, enol form, that is a carbonyl compound is existed in both keto form and enolic form. What is keto form? The carbonyl group as it is existed, it is a keto form. When one proton is shifted from carbon to oxygen, it become enol. CC double bond is a en, this is OH group ol, this is enol. Enol form and keto form. The extent of enol form to keto form for a carbonyl compound depends upon the condition. Under neutral, the keto form is predominated. Under acidic condition, enolic form is predominated, whatever it may be. So the keto form and enolic form of carbonyl compounds are identified or predicted with the help of proton NMR spectroscopy. In general, In general, the keto form of carbonyl compound exhibited less number of signals when compared with its enolic form. Under enolic form, the number of signals are more. Under keto form, the number of signals are less. For example, in this case, say in the keto form, you can see in the keto form, CH3, CH3 are same. This is A, this is A. These two protons are also equivalent, B proton, B proton. So that we will get one signal for two protons, the second signal for two CH3 groups. This is 2 CH3 group signal. This is 2 methylene protons. Now here, these two methyl groups in the keto form are equivalent. One signal appeared. These two protons, that is methylene proton, are also equivalent. Another signal is appeared. But in the enolic form, coming to enolic form, the two methyl groups become non-equivalent, as this methyl is attached by carbonyl carbon. This methyl group is attached with alkene carbon. Therefore, this methyl group and this methyl groups are non-equivalent. Similarly, this methine proton, this is A proton, this is B proton, methine proton is C, non-equivalent from all other, and OH proton is D. You will get a signal for OH proton, methine proton, one CH3 group, the second CH3 group, A proton, P proton, C and D. You can observe under keto form there are less number of signals because of equivalency of the proton. But in the enolic form, the protons in the enolic form is almost non-equivalent. Therefore, always more number of signals are appeared. So, we can establish the carbonyl compound is existed, or carbonyl compounds are involved in the keto-enol tautomerism. Under keto form, there are less number of signals can be observed from the sample, whereas in the enolic form of the same molecule, we can find more number of signals. So, this difference supported there is a existence of carbonyl compound under the two forms, keto form and enol form. So, this is about study of keto-enol tautomerism. So, with this, according to your syllabus, the applications of proton NMR spectroscopy is completed. Application part is over. We have studied the two applications in the yesterday's class. One is the study of cis-trans isomers. The other one is study of reaction mechanism. So, according to your syllabus, study of reaction mechanism, in that specifically included in the syllabus, study of bromonium ion intermediate, study of electrophilic substitution reactions, study of carbocations and carbene ions. This is examples included under the study of reaction mechanism, and then study of cis-trans isomers, which is based on the coupling constant. And the third application is study of conformations that we discussed in this class regarding the conformations of cyclohexane and conformations of decaline. And then study of hydrogen bonding and the study of carbon nitrogen rotation and deuterium exchange process in order to identify the labile protons of the sample of OH, NH2 and COOH. And then finally, the application of NMR spectroscopy to study keto-enol tautomerism. So, these are the applications included in the syllabus. All the applications are covered. Now, in the proton NMR spectroscopy, the two two topics are remaining, two topics are left over. One is instrumentation part, instrumentation of proton NMR spectroscopy. Other one is the technique of recording. In what way, in what procedure or what technique is applied to record the proton NMR spectroscopy and its instrumentation. These two topics were we will discuss in the next class. So with this I complete today's lecture. Thank you very much.